Hello and welcome to Kicking Tires. My name is Jimmy,
And I'm Justin.
and today we got some exciting automotive news, starting with the MX-30. Then we got the Jetta, got a little bit of a facelift. There's the electric Dodge muscle car, so that's going to be interesting. The Explorer ST, there's a little bit of a refresh there, and the Forester gets a little bit of a facelift as well. So let's talk about the MX-30 first. So the MX-30 is Mazda's first electric car. I mean, maybe they had something electric in the past. I don't know. Anyways, it's a new electric vehicle that is positioned in a very weird place. So let's talk about price, because that's the main thing that was released. It's 42,000 Canadian or 34,000 US. And of course, there's incentives. So depending on where you are, you're looking at, well, in the States, you can only get it in California. So it's 8,500 to like $13,500 off of it, if you're in California, depending on a whole bunch of different things. But it can potentially be like a $20,000 electric vehicle.
Huh.
Potentially. I mean, you're like the incentive there is dependent on your income and a whole bunch of other things. It's kind of weird in California how that's figured out, but yeah, potentially, you're looking at that. But even at 34,000, you're like, that's not too bad. It's priced reasonably well. I mean, it's less than like a Kia Soul or a Hyundai Kona. But then you read into the details, and then you realize it only has 100-mile range or 160 kilometers, which is very little actually, because the Mini Cooper that has 114 miles, and that's like the next tier. Even the Leaf has more range, and the Leaf is cheaper than this. But where they're kind of going with this is I feel like they're kind of trying to compete with the BMW i3.
That's what I was thinking. It's a quirky car, but the i3 was more experimental, which MX does stand for the experimental
They're
cars.
experimental, exactly.
But that i3 came when EV was still just starting to hit the mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
But now we've got really established EVs. I don't know if this makes sense. It's been around for like a year now, I think, in Japan.
I'm not too sure, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's been around for a little bit. I've seen them in Japan. Um, it's such a quirky shape too. I just don't know. The incentives have to be pretty good to get this.
Yeah.
Which it won't be great because ultimately it won't be better incentives than a Leaf, I think.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, whereas a Leaf does replace your typical commuter vehicle. This is borderline.
Yeah. So, okay, as some of you may know, I'm one of the biggest Mazda fans. I showed this to my wife. My wife loves it. She was like, "Oh, it's perfect. We're looking for an electric car. This is Mazda. It's exactly what she wants because she loves Mazdas." And then I told her, I'm like, "Well, it's about 160-kilometer range," and she's like, "Oh, that's good enough for like 3 days of work. That's it." And I'm like, "Yeah, can't really go that far. Like if we decide to go into Abbotsford, we probably can't go to Abbotsford and back without charging. Like it's a problem with the limited range. But at least in California, this is not something that the Canadian Mazda has offered, but in the US, what you can do is up to 10 times a year, you can ring up a Mazda dealership and be like, "Hey, I got a little bit further of a range today than 160 kilometers, 100 miles. So can I borrow a gas-powered Mazda?" And they'll give you one. Up to 10 days in the first 3 years that you have it, you can borrow a gas-powered Mazda.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's sending the wrong message. We want people to get into electric to replace gasoline vehicles, not to supplement it. But
Eh,
it's kind of like riding the bus or riding a bike. It will work for you 90% of the time,
Yeah,
and then there's that 10% time where you have no choice, but you need your own gas-powered car.
right.
Um,
I mean, 10 times in 3 years isn't that bad. Let's be honest.
yeah.
Just over 3 times a year, it's not bad. I mean, you're not gonna go on that many road trips anyways, right? Um, like it's a good idea, but it's so bad at the same time. It's just so weird. I personally love how this thing looks. I love the interior of it as well. The materials that's used on the seats and the cork that's in the center console, it's super unique and super cool. But just 100-mile range, it's very limiting.
Yeah, I thought there were talks about putting in a little rotary and stuff.
Yeah, they kind of axed that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's kind of
they said they had reliability issues. Who
with the
saw that coming?
rotary.
What?
No way.
They were they were hoping the rotary, because it's going to be constantly spinning at a certain RPM, and they can be computer managed, because the rotary is going to be not a engine that powers the vehicle, like powers the wheels, but it powers a generator which charges the battery. It can be steady RPM, it can run longer, and it can help, like the electronics can help the cool down and the warm up process, which is one of the key things on rotary, right? Like you don't want to start a rotary vehicle for 10 seconds and shut it off. It's just one of those big no things. So with the electronics, it was supposed to help that, but I guess electronics can only go so far.
Hmm.
But yeah. Oh, they also want to give you $500 as a charging credit. So you can use that to charge your vehicle, or you can install home charger with it as well. So you get that, which isn't bad.
Yeah, not that powerful either, eh?
Oh no,
141 under 200
100,
pound feet of torque.
yeah, and all to the front wheels.
Yeah, I not interested in this car.
No, I think it's one of those cool things that you'll see on the road, and you're like, oh, that's kind of cool, but it's not a vehicle that either
Yeah,
of us would be
you
all
don't
that
want to
interested
own
into.
it. You don't want to spend your own money on it.
No,
Yeah.
I would love to experience it, but definitely not one that
Hmm.
you know I'll buy. But this one's interesting. The next topic here is the Jetta. So the Jetta got a slight update for a 2022 model year. Um, I mean, arguably the Jetta is pretty boring of a vehicle, and it really isn't getting too much more exciting. But the GLI version is not bad. But the base model Jetta, it's getting a slight bump. So instead of 1.4 liter that it has before, it's now 1.5. You get a little bit more power out of it. That's the same engine that's in the Taos, which is like their subcompact SUV. And I mean the updates to it on the inside as well with the digital cockpit. That's nice. There's also new stitching and stuff like that. I mean, it's a good update. Is
Yeah,
it important?
exterior wise, it's very minor. Like it's just the bumpers change a little bit, the grill changes a little bit. You can tell right away if you know what to look for, which is the grill. It's got the two bars coming off, and that's kind of what the difference is between this one and last year's on the outside. The bumper, you'd have to really know these cars to see the difference. GLI model looks great. I think the the accents they've done to it, and the new bumper gives it a totally different.
It's nice and aggressive on the front end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and even the rear end, it's pretty clean, and the diffuser is pretty big. The whole wraparound diffuser thing. Interior wise, it's basically the same as before.
Yeah.
Um, the
Which is
eight
not
inch.
which is not a bad thing.
Yeah, they have two versions of their virtual cockpit thing. So the base model, well, the middle trims get the 8 inch standard, and then when you go up to GTI, you get the 10 inch or GLI.
Same thing.
Confusing. Yeah, no, the GTI interior I think is a little bit nicer.
I think that GTI is definitely a step above, because the GLI, the Jetta, is based on Mark 7 or even Mark 6 kind of interior, whereas the GLI or GTI is now Mark 8, right? So
This is more like a 7.5 kind of in between area. It's got a bit of that Mark 8 look with the two different levels. Like the screen is skewed
mhm,
towards the driver, and then if you look a little bit further down, it's got climate controls, and the shifter area looks more like a Mark 7. So it's a little bit of an overlap car. Jetta never I never really thought too much about this car, but after recently driving like a brand new Corolla, and I'm like, dude, this
super
car is
disappointed.
awful. Like everything about it was pretty bad. Like I'm a Toyota fanboy, and the Corolla is bad. Like the base, I think it was a LE with the hubcaps, and it handles terribly. It's very slow, not even good on gas. It got like 9 liters per 100K. Um, I really liked when Volkswagen switched to that 1.4. So with the Golf, the previous generation, and this one had that 1.4 turbo, really good motor, like really strong low end,
Mm,
um, which helps with your fuel economy and helps you feel like you have something not
zippy.
so gutless. Yeah, yeah, it makes a bit of noise too, which I think is not a bad thing in this segment. Um, but obviously the GLI is the one the enthusiasts go for.
Mhm.
GLI gets that electronic LSD and adaptive damping, which is kind of exclusive to this in this
Yeah,
class.
yeah.
Yeah, one of the things we really have to point out is that probably the biggest competitor is probably the Civic, and
So the Civic Si and the Elantra N line would be the
yeah,
biggest competitors.
yeah, being from like a mainstream kind of yeah, this brand being one of the bigger brands. The Civic, the new Civic sedan looks very similar to this car. Like from the rear three-quarter view, it's got a very similar shape aside from the side window,
The window kink.
the window kink behind the C pillar, which is pretty subtle. The roof shape is a little bit different. I think the Civic is a little bit higher near the middle, gives you a bit more headroom, but overall, it is a very similar shape. I think the Jetta was pretty handsome, and you can get. Oh, one thing that's new, they're adding a few more colors for 2022, which is always a welcome thing because it's too easy for manufacturers to just get away with offering like 4 colors.
White,
Uh,
silver, black,
Gray.
gray. Like,
Yeah.
it's all the monochrome colors.
Yeah. Because they sell easy, and you chances are you like one of the 4 choices they give you. But yeah, you get some cool color options. They got that cool gray that's like a darker Nardo gray. I forgot what it's called.
Can you get because I know the GTI you can get like an assortment of colors that was like
No, you
additional.
can't go crazy on
No?
on
Oh,
the
okay, okay.
Jetta.
All right.
Yeah,
Because I remember it was only like a couple $1,000s, like 5,000 or something like that, for full like special color,
like
like Viper
Lamborghini color.
green.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
purple.
the purple. Yeah, it was really nice on the current. I think GTI and Golf R's had that.
Yeah,
Um,
Golf R for sure had.
and it was just it stands out. Like it's
Yeah,
horrible for resale. Like if you're thinking about that, because you got to find that special someone that will love a Viper green, whatever color. But when you have it, it just stands out in a crowd. It's just
yeah.
so
The
nice.
color transforms the car. And I feel that way with the Supra right now. Is like being yellow. It's like it just it puts it on a different level. I wasn't a huge fan in the beginning, but seeing it, now that it's got a little bit of work done to it, um, Yeah, it's really come together. Having that color just, and that's something that's not easy to change down the road too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can wrap it, but I
Mhm.
mean, as good as wraps are still, like they just don't look as good as real paint. Like they don't shine, they don't shimmer. They still have like just
Yeah,
like
and you'll
it
see
looks like a
your
layer on it.
original color in underneath in the
Yeah.
door jambs and stuff like that.
One thing we've got to mention, the GLI does get the GTI motor as well.
Hmm.
The E8888 whatever one,
Fourth
200
generation.
228 horsepower, paired with a 7-speed DSG or 6-speed manual still, so you can still get a stick shift in the GLI. So
Yeah.
that's certainly nice because a
Yeah, and
lot
you can
of
get the stick shift in the lower trim Jettas too. There Volkswagen's big on that, I guess, keeping the stick shift alive in these cars. And that was one of the things I always noticed with like Mark IVs, especially Mark IVs and Mark Fives. There's a surprising amount that are actually purchased with manuals.
Hmm.
I think the people that typically make the move to go to a Jetta versus a Corolla or Civic, that was kind of the idea, is that you get slightly sportier driving model.
Oh wow, you can get a Highline with a manual. It's not just the base model.
Yeah.
Wow, okay, that's cool.
But yeah, and then in the states, I don't know if we're gonna get this here. They have the a sport trim, which previously was called the R line. So that's got the blacked out, basically like a black optics package,
Hmm.
and it does have a some
it,
kind of LSD
it's so
XDS. I don't know if it's a real LSD.
it's so common, like a blacked out version of a car these days. Every
Mhm.
manufacturer is doing it.
Black edition.
It's I don't
Yeah.
like it. I don't like a glossy black wheel. I hate it because like it gets scratched up over time. It doesn't look good. Like sure, it looks great in a showroom, but that's just me. Anyways, let's move on. Let's talk about Dodge. Dodge, the makers of the Hellcat, the makers of all the SRT products that you can think of, they're coming up with a well, it's something that's very weird. Because they
It's
want to
very
make
undodge like.
it very undodge like. They want to make an electric muscle car. They throw a tweezer on their Twitter, and they're saying how like the creators of the 426 Hemi V8 is now making an electric muscle car. Um, you can't see what the car looks like. There's nothing about the vehicle itself. It's just about how Dodge makes every single beast that's available on the road, and they're doing something a little different. I mean, let's be honest, they're super late to the party, but if they're if they're willing to bring something different to the road, I'm interested. But would anyone want an electric muscle car? And what is an electric muscle car?
I mean, the Model Y or Model X is basically an electric muscle car, right? Um, yeah, I mean, all the Teslas are basically electric muscle cars, all the performance
But
models.
a muscle car is supposed to be like redonkulously fast, like real loud, and
Yeah, the sound is going to be the biggest obstacle for an electric car. Um, I mean, the idea of hooning and burnouts and drag racing is not exclusive to the combustion engine per se.
it's not. But I just feel like I don't know, just it's different, right? It's
Yeah.
not really the same as before. It's not, you know, there's just something about a Charger and a Challenger just doing, laying down 11s down the road. That's something amazing about that.
Yeah, part
With
of the
a,
appeal is the single digit MPGs.
yeah, when I had the Challenger, it was just the RT model, and I was booting that thing around for a while, and I almost got into single digits, and it was amazing. It felt great, and the sound, oh, that V8, like sure it doesn't make as much power as some other V8s out there, but the
Yeah.
sound was great.
And I mean, let's just talk about Stellantis electronics in general. Not their strong suit. I
The
mean,
Pacifica
EVs,
was amazing. I'm gonna say
EVs
that first.
are a simpler technology than, in theory, they should be more reliable because less moving parts. But this is
but
Fiat,
but the moving
Chrysler,
but the only
Dodge.
moving part is what they're not great at.
Yeah. No, their non-moving parts are what they're bad at too. You know,
Let's be honest, Stellantis isn't great at a lot of stuff. Their reliability scores are pretty low.
pretty horrendous. So, going into a brand new uh market for them, I don't know.
It's
Yeah.
going to be different. It is coming in 2024, and we should see something next year in regards to like a concept and whatnot.
Yeah,
Um,
because I mean, Stellantis as a whole has been pretty slow with the EV
oh,
move.
super slow.
And so, and usually people start with more pedestrian model and then work their way up to kind of a hot rod style, big power, big performance EV. And so, yeah, I don't know.
I'm curious, but I'm holding my thoughts till a little bit later because I just don't see this going well in terms of an actual performance sedan. Like I'm sure it can make a lot of power. Tesla proves that an electric car can make a lot of power, but like I've driven
I mean,
I've
what does
driven
it
the
really
Model.
mean?
Well, I
Like
don't
performance muscle?
I don't well that's the thing, right? Like it needs to do burnouts. That's one thing it has to do. Like it needs to do good burnouts. It
But
should be able to
anything electric does, like a Spark EV does burnouts.
the type of burnout is different. Like it's not only the smoke show, it's the sound. It's the ability if you're standing next to it, you might die because
Yeah,
that the engine might explode on you or the driver doesn't have good control of the car and it swings around and hit you.
yeah.
I just don't feel an electric version of it, it's going
No,
to be as good
yeah,
because it's going to be safer. And who wanted a safer muscle car? Let's be
yeah.
honest,
A safer
right?
dodge. Like if you can't dodge it, ram it. That's been their slogan all these years. So we'll see. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
Speaking of
performance. um
American performance.
American performance. Ford is okay. So the Ford Explorer reviewed one a little while back. It was the hybrid model. I thought it was great. But the Ford Explorer, what's unique about it is it's actually a rear-wheel drive driven first, then to front wheels. So like the four-wheel drive system, it's more rear drive biased. And what they've done for the 2022 model year is given us an ST model as well as an ST line that is rear wheel drive. That's super cool, but it's not going to sell here in Canada. I don't even know if it's going to come into the Canadian market. I believe in the US it's going to be fine because I'm thinking of it as a tow vehicle, right? Like if you're living
Hmm.
down in Florida, you won't need four-wheel drive, just won't. But I think it's super cool that they're adding this rear-wheel drive as an option. And for those who want to look cool but don't want to have that additional power because the ST comes with 400 horsepower from that 3-liter EcoBoost. If you're thinking 300 horsepower from a 2.3 is good, you can get the ST line, which
Hmm.
looks like an ST, but you just don't get the performance bits.
This is kind of a. I didn't really see this coming to do a rear-wheel drive SUV because to me the ST is like it's nice, but it's not like blow you away kind of performance. Nor is it like
No.
a Durango with the Hellcat motor, right?
Or just a Durango SRT.
Yeah, or even like an X5M or that level of performance SUV. I don't think it's there.
No.
Um, it doesn't have necessarily the handling or the braking to put itself out there as this kind of product. So I'm thinking maybe it's just to offer like a cheaper alternative.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit cheaper of an option for those who don't need the 4-wheel drive.
Mhm.
Like I think the Explorer is one of the ones that's in this mid kind of market that can tow, other than the Durango, because the Durango can tow quite a bit as well. And both of those are rear drive based all-wheel drive systems. So like if you're looking for it, before it was just a Durango as the only option for a rear-wheel drive model. Like you can now get this as well. So I think it's just giving buyers that option. It's
Mhm.
not so much like it's going to be a better performing vehicle. I don't think they're just judging from that. It's
Yeah.
just giving you that option.
Yeah, I'm sure it will handle marginally better. Whether or not we can feel that difference,
Yeah, a little
I
bit
don't
less
know.
weight, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely not huge. Speaking of not huge, the Forester. So this is on for so I'm looking at currently Subaru Japan's website, and they actually updated the Forester. It's a refresh front end that looks very
Not very
awkward.
refreshing.
It's a very awkward front end. I mean, okay, let's be honest. There's every single vehicle in the world, a lot of manufacturers, they tweak it for different markets. I was doing research for the Nissan Kicks, and the Nissan Kicks that's available here in Canada looks quite a bit different than the one that's in India, versus Brazil versus Mexico. Like it's a little bit different. It's tweaked all throughout the world. But this one, it does not look good. Like the
Yeah,
front
it's
headlight,
extremely funky.
I'm not a fan of it.
This
It's on.
generation Forester was not pretty to begin with.
I didn't mind it. I thought it was okay, but they took the headlight and they chopped off the section between the light and the grill essentially, and they moved it further out. So now there's just
Yeah,
nothing. It's this bumper in between the headlight and the grill. It's super awkward.
it looks cheap.
Like
Like it
why?
looks more entry level. Like they've moved down to a cuter subcompact look, but they've put it on a larger crossover, and so it
Yeah.
just doesn't look right. Like if you put this in like a K van, this type of headlight, I think it would look great.
Hmm.
But on a mid-size, small to mid-size crossover,
Just
yeah,
weird.
it's not pretty. But and the rear end of this Forester was always pretty ugly to me.
It was so bad that they don't even have a picture of the back end.
Ha. Yeah, they only show it with
The
the
truck
hatch
open.
open, because with the trunk closed, it's quite. Oh my God! Look at that one with the orange
Oof.
accents. That this one is embarrassing. Like they make that one here. I forgot. Is it the sport trim? With
Um,
all the orange accents and the
I forgot
orange
what it's
stitching.
called. I
I
think
think
it's
it's called a
sport.
sport trim. It looks like someone who just spends too much time at Walmart or Canadian Tire, like had their way with it and put all the fake carbon fiber and like random pinstriping on the car.
Yeah.
Really tacky. And it's like that's not what the Forester is about. The Forester is about like having the most practical crossover in its class. It should be the easy choice because you should have that all-wheel drive confidence, the and a lot of space, a lot of visibility, and then you kind of throw this curveball at us and make it look kind of like an eyesore. Uh, I mean, come on, look at this next to the RAV4, the Rogue. Uh,
Yeah.
this is by quite a large margin the ugliest. Like this has solidified its place at the bottom of the pack as far as looks.
Yeah, it's definitely not great. Not sure exactly what they're thinking. Good news is this was released in Subaru of Japan, here in North America, Subaru US, as well as Canada. Um, there's no updates just yet on anything. So who knows? Maybe for us it'll be okay. We won't get this facelift. But I did want to talk about something here because the Wilderness Edition, if you remember, I think 3-4 weeks back, we talked about the Wilderness Edition, and Subaru released a photo of what the next Wilderness Edition will look like. And Car and Driver said that it was going to be the Ascent. I was on their website recently, and they took that word right back out, and they said that it's going to be a Forester. So it looks like we were right.
And we caught them in 4K. Well, no, this podcast doesn't record in 4K.
No,
We don't have that kind of budget. But
yeah,
we but we did catch them, and we did show the Car and Driver article where they said it was the Ascent, and have proven our superiority
we are
over
better.
Car and Driver.
But yeah, I'm excited to see that Wilderness model though. But I really don't think that 2.4 motor is coming in, or 2.3 turbo. I don't think so. I think they're just gonna lift it a little bit, give it slightly beefier tires, and call it a day. Because
I don't even think they gave the Outback like really beefier tires. They just put a better
tire. Yeah, a better off-road tire. Yeah, that was really it. It's sad. I don't think Subaru has a budget for that right now. I think they're pulling their money together with Toyota to develop that electric vehicle. So makes sense. Subaru isn't like a huge manufacturer in terms of, just the amount of money that can spend on their R&D. So it's all right. We'll let them pass. Someone that can spend a lot of money is Mercedes. So just this past week, released the 2021 Mercedes-Benz AMG Gle 63S 4MATIC Plus review. Coupe review.
Coupe.
Super long name. Okay. Let me hear your thoughts on the GLE Coupe first. 63.
When they came out with this generation GLE Coupe, I was like, that's actually kind of cool. The rear end to me is very striking. There's something about this that it doesn't make any sense, but I love how bulbous it is, and I like the curves that the coupe gets. Would I spend my money on one? Hell no. I'm not going to spend this kind of money on an SUV that
What do you mean? It's only $150,000.
Exactly, and the regular GLE starts at half that, so
about there, yeah. Okay, so I agree with you. It is super bulbous. Like it's really rounded on the rear end. I don't understand coupe SUVs. Like, to me, an SUV should be something that is practical. This isn't practical. You lose the ability to have the third row. You lose the ability to have larger items. And because of the electronic tailgate, you really shouldn't have the tailgate open to have longer items in.
It's very hard to reach into. I don't know.
Yeah, the trunk lift over height is pretty tall, but there's a button you can press that can squat the rear suspension down. But still, even when squatted, it's still pretty high. Like, it just doesn't make sense as like an SUV. But when I was driving around and then I was talking to some friends, I found out exactly what it's good for. If you take this to Cars and Coffee, it's gonna be stealing the show, especially in this signal color that we got. This red is super pretty. I actually wanted to take it to Cars and Coffee and see people's reaction and stuff like that. But on the Sunday that I filmed this, unfortunately, it's the one Sunday that Cars and Coffee didn't happen at West 4th.
Spanish Banks.
Yeah. It didn't happen. Like, I drove up and down in the morning and there was no one there. I was really upset. I couldn't find anyone. But I think that's the only reason why this exists, is to show off
it's
your
a
wealth.
show car.
Yeah,
it is. I mean, for a lot of people, you don't need an SUV to move large furniture. My dad is one of those guys that is like, I need an SUV. I need to move my fridges. Yesterday he texted me a picture. He had like the whole trunk of the Touareg filled with cinder blocks. And I was like Like some people use their SUVs this way. Others just want a little bit higher ride height. This is, we got to think like AMG four-door or like an E63. Um, so some people just want the higher ride height, not really getting that much ground clearance with this car anyways.
No.
Um, I love this look though, because the previous generation GLE was one of the ugliest SUV coupes, and with this one, the rear end is just transformed. Like it's definitely one of the prettiest now.
It's a lot
Actually,
better.
they're all pretty good. Like the Q8 looks really good. The Cayenne Coupe looks pretty good. So I get it. It's like SUV doesn't always have to be about the utility. It's they probably don't even call it an SUV, to be
No,
honest.
they. I don't think they
Yeah,
do.
yeah, I get it, and I know this handles worse than an AMG GT four door or an E63 or a C63, but
Who, who cares?
who cares? It still sounds great. It's still fast, looks cool, has a nice interior, so it's okay. We can forgive it, I think. If this was like 6 inches lower, like no one would have a problem with it because it then would just be a E coupe sportback thing.
That's basically what it comes down to, right?
Hmm.
Like a lot of these new coupes are not coupes, they're sedans. Let's be honest, they're not coupes because they have full like rear doors. They're sedans. These SUV coupes are just the new version of what a sedan would be. They're just
Hmm.
a taller sedan. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And it's not that much taller with the GLE because with the AMG one that we have here, it's been lowered. And with the air suspension, it's basically the same ride height as a regular vehicle.
Hmm. Well, and like here's like my take on it is I've always liked the Grand Coupe and the S5 Sportback, the A5 Sportback, what have you, because I like that they give you more practicality over the regular four-door sedan counterpart, and
Hmm.
I think they're a little bit more stylish as well.
Yeah.
And then this is just taking that to, because I understand like getting into the like a 435 Grand Coupe or an S5 Sportback, it's pretty low. The entry
Yeah.
height is gonna be low for some older people. Um, it's not the easiest to get in and out of. So having something higher actually does kind of make sense. And so I think I just follow that train of thought where I go, okay, we start at a four-door sedan level of practicality. We improve that with styling and practicality with a sportback, and then now we make that easier to get in and out of. It kind of works if you take that train of thought. Because if we don't take that train of thought, then everyone will just drive minivans, which is not such a bad thing
Yeah,
as
I was
we've
gonna say
talked
like
about.
you make that sound like it's a bad thing, but that sounds
Yeah.
perfect. I love that idea. I honestly speaking, I think it's just it's a quirky vehicle. It's good to show off in. It's not gonna be a car that you're gonna take to the track. I mean, you can, but you're not. It's too heavy to be on the track.
Yeah, it will last 2 laps.
It's too heavy. The brakes are gonna wear. Then you got the maintenance after, and you're gonna go through all those tires, those 22-inch tires. No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not a cheap experience for you to do that. You may take it down to the drag strip because that's gonna be kind of cool, but that's
Yes.
really it. That's
Yeah,
really
I do see people wanting to drag race something like this, especially with light bolt-ons. It goes a long
oh
way.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
if the 4-liter V8, it's astonishing. 603 horsepower.
yeah.
It's
One thing
it's
I'm
crazy.
not a huge fan of is how Mercedes just reuses their wheels. At least they didn't use the wheel that was on that GLS you tested, the hideous monoblock AMG wheel.
Oh
But
yes,
I don't like that they use the same wheel across their whole
the
lineup,
entire lineup. Yeah.
because then you're limited to like 3 styles if you get an AMG. There might be different sizes and offsets and whatnot, but yeah, these are also some of the heaviest wheels I've ever mounted.
Oh,
I did a set of these 22-inch AMG wheels. They're like 40 pounds without a tire.
oh.
Um, Yeah.
I'm actually a little upset. You can't get monoblocks for the GLE.
Thank God.
The just FYI, the matte black AMG 22-inch wheels that were here, that's a $500 extra option because they're black rather than silver. Silver ones are included with the $160,000 car that you buy. But if you want them in black, that's $500. Or you can call Overdrive. They have Plasti Dip. Well, not Plasti Dip. What do you guys have? Yeah.
We have Plasti Dip for like
Okay.
yeah, like
$10 a
$40
can.
worth of Plasti Dip will get you the same. No, don't do that to your GL.
What $160,000 AMG owner is going to go to your shop and be like, "Hey, can you Plasti Dip my wheels?"
Well, that's why I know how heavy these 22s are, is because I had to dismount and remount a set that we sent to a body shop to paint black.
Mm.
And then I'm like, holy crap, these are some heavy wheels. Really well made. They're strong. They're very well balanced. Like they took like virtually no wheel weights.
That's good.
For something that weighs that much is mind blowing. But they were
That's
like
quite good.
over 40 pounds a wheel. Yeah, mind blowing. I never expected an AMG wheel to weigh that much.
Well, I mean, when the truck weighs like almost 6,000 pounds, you kind of have to have strong wheels to take on that weight.
Yeah, especially with the lower profile tires.
Yeah. I was just on a Mercedes website. Apparently, on the GLE 63 regular version or the Coupe, you can't get the monoblocks. Only on the GLS.
No, that's a good thing. You can kill off those monoblocks. Like they're ugly, they're expensive.
I mean, it's only $2,000. It really isn't that much.
It would ruin the look of this car. The GLE Coupe is quite nice.
Perfect. Well, I think that's really it for today. It's a little bit of a shorter session, but not much news this week. Was there anything else that you wanted to add, Dustin?
A lot of news this week about the Z34, the new one, the what you wanted to call the 400, but it's
The
not.
new Z.
The newish ones, and everyone's come out and confirmed that okay, we can reuse a lot of the bits from the old car, like pretty much everything chassis wise.
That's great. I
Yeah.
I think like all the suspension guys will probably still have to have a little bit of tweaks because I'm sure the old VQ versus the new VG engine, it's going to have weight differences. So suspension wise, I'm sure there's still going to be tweaks. But I'm sure everything else you can like just bolt on. It's going to be completely fine. Oh, actually, there was some news about that engine being a little bit different than the Q60 engine as well. It's not just straight from the Q60. The turbos or something were a little different, but I didn't read into it.
Yeah, so 400Z, it is getting people talking, which I think is great for Nissan. I don't know. I think it's being compared to the likes of the Supra, the Cayman, what have you. So that's not a bad thing for kind of a really long mid-cycle refresh. This is a midlife crisis. It's because this is not even midlife. This is like they've lived a whole life. The Z34 chassis has outlived has outlived everyone else for that matter. But it is a revival, and I think it'll do okay. It's starting. I'm seeing some faith that even though it's still just a Z34, I see some hope for it, and I think I see enthusiasts getting excited about it.
But I hear more enthusiasts get excited about the FRS or GT86 or
GR86.
You can't remember the other
BRZ. It never changed. I always search for BRZ when I was looking for FRS parts. I'm like, I don't remember where the dash goes, so I just search BRZ for everything.
Just easier.
It's so much easier. So yeah, that's how. But no, it's everyone. There's always haters. There's always doubters. but the new Z, I think we'll see a lot of people adopt it. I think. I
Yeah,
think I think people will take it on.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think the pricing is where it's probably the most exciting. Like having almost double the power of a BRZ with $10,000 more is a pretty good bargain because you can't spend $10,000 on a BRZ to get 400 horsepower,
Hmm.
right? You
Yeah.
can't. But you know, there's a lot more than just power, I think,
Yeah.
and
And
for some people, it's
well,
going to be different.
so for our generation and anyone older than us, I think a lot of people still think that this car, like a lot of people still doubt domestic brands to make good handling cars. Like people would, obviously they don't know anything about cars, but um, I I think that is part of the appeal of a Fair Lady or a Z,
Mm.
is they think that that is a sporty handling coupe. That, yeah, but I think if again, if it were my money, I would go domestic for around 40s, under 50K. It has to be domestic. The Supra is way up there.
Mhm.
65K. It's a lot more to spend for not a lot more performance. I can tell you that it's slower than the Camaro SS1LE, uh, quite noticeably. But um, actually, Supra makes good power. I just came back. Okay, actually, let's talk a little bit about the Supra because I just came back from my third track day with the Supra. Tweaked a little bit about it, so it's got spacers in the back now, a little bit wider, and just did an alignment on it. And the car is a different car. I still don't like the Michelin Pilot Super Sports that they use. Um, those are getting replaced soon. Spoiler alert. You heard it here first. This is the first place I'm saying that it's getting new tires. I just ordered them earlier this week. They might be here tomorrow.
Linglongs?
Um, no, but okay. So um, yeah, actually, this will be the exclusive, the kicking tire exclusive, which is it's getting Supercar threes, which is what the
Oh,
SS1LE had.
oh,
Great tire. I love that tire on track. Very forgiving. A lot of grip, can take a lot of heat, and lasts a long time. We did 4 track days on the Camaro. It still had tread left, which for that heavy of a muscle car, I was pretty blown away. So Supercar 3, we have some local Porsche guys running that tire. So I'm really excited to see what it can do. But the crazy thing is just how little or how much an alignment did for that car. We did align it before the first track day just to get a baseline, but now it's drivable again. I really didn't like this car when I first took it out, and it's starting to come together. And I think with the tires, we'll find out in about 2 weeks how it does. But have high hopes for it now.
where are you going
Um,
in 2 weeks?
Vancouver Island again. So I
Okay.
we just did Vancouver Island. Alex ran a 122 in it. I ran a 124 in it, which both like pretty blew me away. That I didn't think this car could do that in stock form because it's still on stock suspension, stock tires, stock tune. I'm not gonna touch the tune. The car is so fast, like coming out of the turns because of it's got 8 speeds. So compared to the Lambo, compared to the Huracan, the Supra actually has more torque. Wheel torque wise, the Supra's over 400. The Lambo on paper makes 390 something torque. And you can feel that coming out of a turn. If you're like, you can short shift, you can come out of a turn at 3000 RPM. The Supra has all the power in the world to exit that turn. Whereas Lambo, you still have to rev it up a little bit. Lambo's still faster, ultimately, but Supra really good power. I wouldn't touch the tune. Um, that's so. Here's the thing: is in terms of sheer numbers, if I were to take that car out stock, it would lose to a Type R around Vancouver Island.
Hmm.
That's why the Supra has been such a struggle. Well, that okay, so Supra has earned a reputation because there's been really good drivers driving it, and like people modifying them in such a way. But for the kids that don't understand that, they see the numbers and okay, the most obvious one was 2020 Supra when it came out, 330 something horsepower, 333 or whatever, and then they're like, Mark IV Supra made that 25 years ago. Um, they don't understand what that really means, a power figure. Um, and even then, chassis wise, in stock form, it is lacking. So I think, um, yeah, the Supra it's a good platform. BMW's put a lot of uh, they've built the car to be something that you can work with. So the basis is very good. It doesn't heat soak. The engine stays cool the whole day. Even because when we went up to Area 27, it was like 35 degrees out. So it was hot and the car can take it. So that's what you're really getting for the money. If you chase peak horsepower figures, it doesn't make any sense. But that's what you're getting. The braking system is half decent for what it is, but having been down the domestic side, the 1LE is still a much better bang for the buck. But that car, I was just watching the 1LE videos of when I was out on track with it, and I'm just like, I kind of want one. I want to go. I need to go back. But now that the Supra has kind of won me over again, maybe I don't have to go back. Yeah, that's kind of where, because I don't want to live with the 1LE. It barely fits in my garage. It didn't fit in my underground garage before. Like my old condo had two parking spots. One was between two pillars. It wouldn't fit in there.
Nothing fit in there
The
almost.
M2 fit in there. The STI fit in there like relatively easy.
Barely. I remember the STI. You told me that you had to like fold the mirrors and get someone to spot you.
No, the Caravan needed to fold the mirrors in. The STI could fit in that spot. I scraped a wheel against the pillar once. That's that's it.
That's why
Um,
alligators were invented.
Actually, I scraped the tires because
Oh,
I had enough camber that it
uh,
didn't actually, but my tire had a yellow mark on it, and I'm like, oh, I had enough camber that it didn't touch the rim. Um, but yeah, like the Camaro is not a car I want to live with every day, and the Supra is an awesome commuter. It's good on gas. It's quiet. It's comfortable. So you get stuff that you don't.
visibility is just as bad though.
Visibility is almost as bad, but it's got blind spot sensors because the Camaro 1 SS does not have blind spot sensors. Whereas Toyota Safety Sense is standard now. So yeah, it's just like one of those things that I want to stress that, like, when you look at a car, like especially for the younger audience, is you can't just look at the numbers. You can't just look at the lap time, because if you look at the lap time and even what a stock car reviews at, because if I had to review a Supra stock, I would I would I was pretty scathing in my first track review of that car. At most, I would give that car a 6 out of 10 for stock, out of the box performance and feel. It still has no steering feel, um, like none. But I don't know. Maybe the tires will change that. But how journalists review it is in stock form. That's all you get, and uh, that's one of the things too. Is they other manufacturers may give you more out of the box. A 1LE is going to review well. Why? Because it's set up properly with good alignment, good tires from the factory, but all this stuff and really good brakes. But all this stuff comes at, there's trade-offs with running 180 treadwear tires from the factory, um, especially in a burnout machine. So there's, yeah, don't just look at the numbers, don't just look at the reviews. You really have to kind of dive deeper into things. I think talk to people that have owned these cars, live with them, and tune them, because in the matter of 2 months, my opinion on this car has changed significantly, and hopefully in a matter of 1 month, it will, or actually 2 weeks, it will change again to be even better. But
Or or with the new tires and additional grip, you'll find faults within the chassis.
I might, because the alignment is set up for the existing tires. I don't know
Mhm.
how the new tires will react to that.
Right.
So there is that chance, but that's something that I will have to then analyze again and then tweak for next season.
Right.
It's like,
Are you
okay,
going with
well,
the
the
same
car,
width as well, or
it's one size up. Like two
okay?
stock is 255, 275. This is going to be 265, 285,
Okay.
because they don't make supercar threes in the stock size. So we're going a little bit bigger. Gives me a little bit more ground clearance, which is nice because the car in stock form is a little bit low. It's not low because you can stick 4 fingers into the front wheel wells,
Mhm.
but it is a little bit low for my hoist because like I have to
Mm,
position a certain way, otherwise the blocks are. And I have one of the lowest hoists out
sounds like
there.
you need a better hoist. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, no, it's my M2 has no issues on it, but somehow the Supra is a little bit lower, and it's awkward to put on a hoist because the wheelbase is really short,
Mm,
so you're limited as far as your range on the hoist.
right.
But yeah, Supra, a lot of Supra news. Um, follow us on Overdrive Auto Tuning's Instagram, as well as my own, just to see kind of what developments we have. But I'm taking this car really one step at a time. I'm spending a fortune in event fees and ferry fees, but I'm not throwing parts at it. Like I'm not like tires, yes, but I'm not throwing like a ton of money on it because I want to see how it responds to everything. And so far it's responded really well. The brakes, stainless brake lines and really expensive brake fluid has gone a long way. And so, yeah, the development of this car continues. Um, Stay tuned for more.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think that's a good spot to end on.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for listening in this week. We got some great track news. Um, there's only a few more events this year, unfortunately, as the season's wrapping up. But hopefully, we get to experience some more of that next year. In any case, thank you so much for listening in or watching in, and we'll catch you next week. Take care, everyone.
Bye bye for now.